Now, I'm Rob King. We do have breaking news. It appears the suspect in the triple homicide in Yakima this morning has been captured by authorities. We're awaiting a press conference from Yakima Police Department. Here's a view of that podium, and someone should be up there shortly. Before we do that, though, here's an image of the man they were looking for. This is 21-year-old Jared Haddock, who was confirmed to be the suspect in the shooting. Now, around 3:30 this morning, to kind of walk you through what happened, police responded to the Circle K on Nob Hill Boulevard and reports that 3 people had been shot and killed. And it appears that Yakima Chief Police Matt Murray is about to speak right now, so let's go ahead and tune in live to that.
I just want to start today by just thanking some folks. In particular, I want to thank the witnesses who stayed and participated and assisted us, folks who were courageous and called in tips and gave us information that helped lead us to a conclusion in this case. And I'm going to be discussing what happened this afternoon. But before I do, I want to just pay particular thanks to a woman who called 911, and I'll get to what she had to say. I want to thank the community in general. They've been very supportive, very helpful. We're clearly very interested, but really also when we needed them to back off and give us space and patience and time, they did. So I want to thank folks for that. Believe it or not, I want to thank the media. I appreciate all of you. The message got out extremely early from KIT and Lance this morning, all the way up to many of the national networks who've been conducting interviews throughout the day, keeping people informed. And we couldn't do that without you, and I mean that. It's very helpful, and you were all energetic and assisting us with getting that really important message out to folks. As you'll hear, he was out in the community, so it was the threat was never really gone, and I will go into some detail about that. And then I want to thank law enforcement, and if any of you were out at the scene, which I suspect most of you were, it's a pretty long list, but it's really, we couldn't do this alone, and it's really important, I think, to make sure to point folks out and to thank them. So Yakima Police Patrol, the Yakima SWAT team, gang unit detectives, all YPD detectives, the Yakima Sheriff's Office, Grandview PD, Union Gap PD, Moxie PD, the Washington State Patrol. Benton County actually sent a tactical team, I believe. Lieutenant, is that right? Benton County's tactical team? Okay, K9 and a tactical team. Tri-Cities Regional also sent folks to help us. The FBI was very helpful today, U.S. Marshals as well. Fish and Wildlife, state parks, and then, of course, we couldn't do anything without Suncom Communication and the YSO Dispatch, which helped us keep everything coordinated and working smoothly and safely. Excuse me. So with that, I think most of you have heard what happened today. I'm going to recap kind of the end of the day, and then I'm going to take questions from all of you. And then for folks watching live on Facebook, we will take questions from media. If you just type in your question and what agency you work with, organization, and your name, we'll call that out and do our best to answer as many questions as we can. But I want to start with the folks who are here in the room. But at, I think it was 2:16, Captain, is that right? 2:16 p.m., we received a 911 call. As many of you are aware, we had a SWAT call out. We had a house surrounded where we were hoping the suspect was located, but he was not. He was over by the Target store in Yakima. Could I get that map up? So we have a map here for you all to use. This is the Target store. The front faces the east, and we get a 911 call that says that the suspect had borrowed a woman's phone. He then called his mother, and he made several incriminating statements, including, "I killed those people." He made several statements in front of her that he was then going to kill himself. She then was able to get her phone and try to separate from him and call 911. I listened to that call. It's pretty harrowing, and I have to really thank her again because she was very courageous in getting us there. And so the information that she was providing said that he was near the Pizza Hut, which is on the southeast side of the Target store. Officers began immediately responding, and within minutes, the suspect was actually located right in this area near the local Roots marijuana store. The suspect apparently shot and killed himself, and that was prior to officers' arrival. There were officers who heard the shots, but no one saw him actually do that. He was pronounced deceased at the scene. Is that correct?
No, sir, about 3:50.
So they medical care tried to save his life, but he was later pronounced deceased. I'm sorry?
Was he in a vehicle?
He was not. He was on foot. And we don't know how he got to this area. And that's one of the things, I'm happy to answer those questions. But obviously that drew a resolution to this to some degree. We're going to have to go through the formal process of identification, but everything that we see and what he said and what happened leads us to believe this is the same person that was involved in the shootings at the Circle K and the Arco gas station this morning. Clearly, we have to have a more formal process, but I can say with pretty good confidence that we believe that this is the person who was involved in those incidents today. I briefly just want to say the family was cooperative with us all day, and we also appreciate their assistance in this, and of course, a devastating time for them. With that, I think I will just go ahead and answer questions. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if the suspect was at his parents' home at one point?
I don't believe the home he was at was his parents' home. Do we know that?
I think the whole family lives out there.
Okay, so yes, we did have information that he was there. We were having trouble confirming that he was still there. And to be honest, I don't know that we could say for a fact when he left and how he left. We did have some video, but it was really grainy and difficult to discern. I will say that we obviously have to assume he's there and assume he's out and react according to both of those possibilities. So there was a long, long ordeal at the house with the hope, of course, that he was contained in the house. Emily?
In the 911 call or in his conversation with the woman, did he give any indication of the motive for the shooting?
So I can tell you it was a really emotional call. There are parts that are very difficult to understand what she's saying. I listened to it myself and I didn't hear anything that was really clear. It is possible if we clean that up that we may get more information. But at this time, I have no information still. As I told all of you all day, I have no information about why he did this or what was the motive behind all of this.
Will you be releasing any information about the 3 killed this morning?
We won't. The coroner's office will do that. They'll ID those folks, notify their families, and then that'll be released.
Was there anything found at the suspected home?
Well, so we have a search warrant. That process will take a long period. So there's not much I could say now because that is a brand new process that we're just getting started on. I will say, and I want to be careful, but the suspect did have a large amount of ammunition and a weapon when he was located by officers.
What kind of gun?
I don't know, to be honest. It was a handgun. I know that. I think semi-auto.
Semi-auto.
So semi-auto.
Did you have it when you found it?
There was a gun at the scene.
When you see a lot of ammo, how much?
I don't know. I mean, that's one of those things that if I said, I would just be guessing. But it was clearly more than a normal person might carry.
And Chief, you said he was not found with the self-inflicted gunshot in the car. He was out of the
He was on foot, and the 911 caller described him walking around.
And as he was walking,
She said, he's walking towards me now. I mean, she was describing, well, she was watching him as this was happening.
so she essentially saw him pull the trigger.
That I don't know. I don't think so because the Suncom people had asked her to go into business to get safe because she was afraid at that point.
And she had no relation to him. She was just...
Not that we can, not that I know right now. I mean, she said that he had asked her to borrow a phone She let him, and then she heard a call between him and his mom, and that's when a lot of the details of this were disclosed to her. Yes, ma'am.
Who originally informed police that where the suspect was following the shootings?
That's this 911 caller. You mean between the morning and the night?
Between the morning.
I don't think I'm going to get into that, to be honest. We did have some tips. Some people gave us tips, but I think at this point it's better to just leave that there. Yes, ma'am.
There was initially thought that there was a fourth person shot. What did the video show that you guys seen?
So, as often happens, these things, are happening really quickly, and we wanted to get out as much information as we could. So, early indications were that there was a person in a car at the Arco gas station and that he'd fired into that car. We later learned it was his car and that he shot the window of that car in order to get inside because he had locked his keys in the car. So we corrected it as soon as we had that information, but it's one of those things you don't know till you know.
Was this suspect known to you all before this? Or is this...
This is by law one of the areas I have to be a little careful with. So all I can say is that we do have a record of him, and I'll leave it at that. Yes, ma'am.
Earlier this morning, you said it was a random act. Do you still believe it?
Yeah, so I want to be really clear. I don't think we know, and we may never know. What I can tell you is that what we saw on the video and what was described by witnesses, there was no interaction between him and the people. They were just sitting there getting food and got surprised by this person who came in and, literally as he was opening the door, he started shooting these people. And then after shooting both of them, and remember, he was not masked up. He did nothing to conceal his identity. He walked out, saw somebody else in a car and shot them, and then walked across the street, shot his own car, a lot of times, by the way, and drove away. So from the video and the witness statements, it looks very much random. We may learn throughout the investigation that there was something else. I don't know of anything. I don't think we have any indication of that at this time. But if we do learn that, we'll let you know. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like a robbery. It doesn't look like a typical motive that you might see in a shooting, which of course is what makes this such a difficult and troubling case for everybody.
Chief, we know that this has rocked the community. Is there a new message now that there is somewhat of a conclusion to all of this?
Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of good that you can say in this. It's just difficult. It's difficult for the officers. It's difficult for the community. It's difficult for the families on both sides of all this. My hope is that we can treat each other with kindness, and sympathy for the poor folks who lost family members today. I've done interviews with most of you today, so they blur together. But I was asked, could this be prevented? Well, I don't know how. I mean, he just came in and did this. And it would be really difficult to defend yourself, even if you were a highly trained person, because you wouldn't know this threat was coming. And that makes people uncomfortable. And I think that's why America is uncomfortable right now with a lot of these crazy incidents that are occurring. And here we are in Little Yakima, right on the heels of California, dealing with much the same thing. But I don't have the answers, and our job is to get evidence and locate suspects. And I'm very proud of the team. They did just that today. And luckily, nobody else was hurt. Yes, sir.
Do you think the suspect was under any influence of narcotics during any point or at the time of the shooting?
I don't think there's any way for us to know that at this point. I would suspect that there will be an autopsy, which will probably disclose that. So rather than me speculate, I think it'd be better to wait until we see that. Yes, ma'am.
You said that no one else was hurt, but there are gaps in between at this point, what you said, where you know that the suspect was at certain times. Is that going to be part of your investigation moving forward to see if there might have been an incident in between?
Clearly. I doubt it, but anything's possible. So, of course, we always have to be open to the possibility of anything. So we will be, and our detectives will be thorough, and there will be a final report, and we'll be able to make that public.
Chief, I'm kind of unclear on the mother's role.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets the call, he uses the phone, calls his mom, she then calls you guys.
I don't know if she called us. The woman who called was who lent her phone to him. So he borrows this witness's phone.
Okay.
She allows him to call his mom. she hears that conversation and relates it back to us when she calls 911.
Chief, when he is walking towards this woman, is he pointing the gun at her or himself?
Now, this is just me going off of memory. I just want to be careful with those things. I don't remember her saying she ever saw a gun. And by the time he shot himself, as I think I told you, she was inside of a business.
Right, she walked away. Thank you for that clarification.
Is there any questions from the media online? Okay. Anything else from all of you? Okay. Thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Again, if you're just joining us, that was Chief Matt Murray saying that the man suspected in the shooting in Yakima is confirmed dead, appears to be self-inflicted gunshot wounds. 911 call did come out from the Yakima target that the suspect had borrowed a woman's phone, made a call to his mother, and what the chief said were incriminating things, that he did in fact kill those people at the Circle K. 3 confirmed dead around 3:30 in the morning. The chief also noted that the mother was very cooperative with authorities and that the suspect did say on the phone that he was planning to kill himself. And when police arrived, they did hear gunshot wounds and attempted life-saving measures, but he did die at the scene. Obviously, these investigation is still ongoing, and we'll have to wait for the coroner to confirm identification, but they do believe that the shooter in Yakima this morning is dead. Chief Murray also wanted to thank law enforcement, the public for tips. Notably, he thanked the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, Fish and Wildlife as well. And we'll have more details coming up in 4 News Now at 5 p.m., just about a little less than 40 minutes from now, but tune into that to get more details from the press conference. But for now, live in the KXLY Plus Digital News Center, Rob King, 4 News Now.